I'm super excited to show you my new 50mm lens that I got from Tokyo. I've been hunting for it for quite some time, and now after a few months of extensive use, I'm ready to share my experience with it as well as some beautiful photos it produced. Hi, my name is Sergio, and today we're looking at a vintage Nikon 5cm f2. Yes, it is back from the day when focal lengths measured in centimeters and inches. Ever since trying its faster f1.4 brother, I was looking for a good sample for myself. After getting a perfect one back in Tokyo, check my Japan travel video by the way, I've used it almost exclusively over the past few months. This was the only lens I took with me on my trip to Barcelona, and after seeing it in my stories and reels, people seem to get very curious about this 50mm. Hence, I'm doing this first impressions / review episode. Let's start with the obvious, something that definitely catches the eye, the looks. It has a full metal exterior with this nice polished finish which many would agree looks gorgeous on a black M11. With it comes a trade-off, the lens is quite heavy, not to mention you have to add an adapter for it too. And talking about that, there are a few versions of this Nikon. Originally it came in S-mount for Nikon rangefinders, those were silver and black. Later on they made LTM mount version, which is the one I have here. Most recent ones came with this black ring, those would later be called the black belt type. But I think it ruins the all silver aesthetic, so I intentionally bought an earlier lens. A little backstory, I previously owned version 4 Summicron and Summarit-M, and at the time it was perfect for the kind of style I was going for in my photography. And don't get me wrong, 50mm f2.5 from Leica is a great lens. I've made a video about it and it seemed like most of you guys agree with me. However, I've been exploring more abstract and painterly street photography recently, especially the works of Soul Leiter. In fact, he was the reason I started looking for some vintage lens to get me more washed out and dreamy looks. And here you might ask, well, there are tons and tons of vintage glass that can do that, so why exactly Nikon? Coming from Summarit-M with its horrible 80cm minimal focus distance, I was trying to find a 50mm that can focus closer than that. Nikon can focus as close as 45cm, which is a huge improvement, not to mention that most rangefinder lenses would not focus closer than 70cm. With this, you can get more intimate photos and better bokeh too. Next, I wanted a good performance top down to get a clean image at my favorite f8. And I gotta tell you, this Nikon can give you some excellent sharp photos if you need. Of course, it's not on par with modern lenses, especially Summarit-M, but with just a touch of sharpness and clarity in post, it won't be far off. Since we started talking about sharpness, let's move on to performance. It is an older lens, and even though it says it's coated, you will get some flare and less contrast, but hey, that's what I was going for in the first place. There is a slight vignette, but nothing that can be fixed if you really need it. Distortion-wise, I would say it performs good. In most compositions, you won't notice it much. The bokeh is nice and smooth, especially when you get very close to your subject wide open, but it depends on the background. I did get a bit too hectic bokeh at times. For those of you bokeh balls lovers, they are good with this lens. Nothing spectacular, but they are even and smooth, no onion rings, and mostly uniform towards the edge, but they do get deformed a bit. The rangefinder coupling looks good, at least in my case. Up to 0.7 meters, you can focus the usual way on Leica, no problem. At the rangefinder limit, there is a slight stop on the focus ring. Push a bit more and you can continue close focus, but without the coupling. This is one of the quirks, and strangely, all of them are about the focus ring on this lens. So like I said, you cannot use a rangefinder to focus past 0.7 meters, so you'll have to rely on back LCD, or in my case, VisuFlex 2. On film body, I still have to eyeball it, and this is where another quirk comes in. The scale on focus ring is in feet only, so if you're used to meters like on any other lens, you'll have to relearn the scale to get anything in focus. One more thing to know is that this Nikon, like many other lenses of that era, has an infinity lock. As soon as you reach the infinity, the knob clicks in like a button and you have to push it back in if you want to move the ring again. This is a bit annoying and many would just unscrew the stopping mechanism. Like I said, I was searching for a lens to make some dreamy film-like shots, and this lens is perfect for that. I think old streets of Barcelona fit the vibe well, so I made tons of pictures there with this Nikon 5cm f2. Nevertheless, it is also flexible in its output. I did get some great shots that are more of a kind I would get with the Summarit, sharp and clean with high contrast. And of course, you can't deny how beautiful this Nikon is compared to dull plasticky lenses we get nowadays. It cost me just under $100 in Tokyo, but if you can spare more cash, you can search for the 1.4 version, which goes roughly for twice as much. Considering all that, I think getting one to try for yourself is a no-brainer. This is partly the reason why I got into the Leica system, because there's such a huge lens park of vintage glass for you to explore. Anyway, this is it for today. Please like and subscribe, and if you want to see this lens in action, check out my Instagram for photos and reels directly from the scenes where these photos were taken. Have a good day. Goodbye.